This is Alden Meyer. I'm Director of Strategy and Policy for the Union of Concerned Scientists. I'm here in Paris at the climate negotiations that have been going on for the last week and a half. And I wanted to give you an update where things stand just a day or two before the climate talks end. We have a new text out as the result of the last week and a half's work. It is not the final outcome from Paris. They are having consultations on this new text that went until 5 a.m. this morning when they took a break. We are now waiting for another version of the text that will come from Minister Laurent Fabius, who's the Foreign Minister of France, and he's also the President of the Conference of the Parties meeting here. The next version of the text will be the President's text. That should be coming out sometime later today. We don't really know when. Where things stand in terms of the issues is that there are still a lot of options on the table on critical issues like ambition on emissions reductions, like the scale of finance to help developing countries deal with the impacts of climate change and reduce their own emissions, like what the reporting and verification regime will be so we can track how countries are doing carrying out their post-2020 commitments. The issue of loss and damage has gotten a lot of attention here, which is the impacts of climate change on vulnerable countries that can't be avoided no matter what because of the past emissions we put into the atmosphere. How are we going to help those countries deal with those mounting impacts? Those are some of the major issues. They're also talking about the long-term goal for this process and whether the temperature reduction objective ought to be keeping temperature increases below 2 degrees Celsius, as was agreed 5 years ago in Cancun, Mexico, or even more aggressively 1.5 degrees Celsius. That's a big debate here, and also what that means in terms of the need to totally phase out emissions of greenhouse gases, not only carbon dioxide, but methane, nitrous oxide, and other gases. So there's a lot of issues still at play here. We're waiting to see the new text from the President to decide how ambitious it is, how acceptable it is to us and other non-governmental groups here in Paris. The conference is expected to end, scheduled to end at the end of the day tomorrow, Friday, but I've been going to these meetings for the last 25 years, starting with the Rio Earth Summit in 1992, and I can tell you these meetings almost never end on time. I'm expecting it to go into the night on Friday and maybe well into the day on Saturday before we have a final decision. So that's the state of play. We can do more updates as we get closer to the end of the meeting. But I just wanted you to know where things stand at this point in these critical negotiations. They really are down to the crunch time for this meeting. It's now in the hands of ministers, not negotiators, so these are very political decisions that have to be made to find the compromises across north and south lines in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Do you want to thank people for joining?
I do indeed. I'd like to very much thank all of you for joining, and let us know if you have any reactions or questions you would like to send in to us.
Also,
we will be doing these updates periodically. We'll certainly do one when we have the final text coming out and let you know what we think about it.
And we have one question that came in, which is, are we hopeful or pessimistic?
Well, the reality is I'm always hopeful because I couldn't stay in this business if I wasn't. We don't know yet what the outcome is going to be. If they pick the most ambitious and aggressive options that are in the text that came out yesterday, I would be pretty hopeful that we can get a decent outcome. Not everything we want, but what we need to move forward more ambitiously and aggressively. If we get the least common denominator, minimalist options on these various issues out of the text, it will be a very disappointing outcome and certainly a missed opportunity to give the world the signal it needs that leaders are standing up to the plate and doing what they have to do to protect us and our children and grandchildren. So it's still all in the balance. It's too early to call the outcome. It could go either way. And we are working in these last hours to make sure that countries from around the world do what they should do and have a sense of urgency and ambition and solidarity that informs their decisions in the final outcome.